Kia ora te whānau, welcome back to another video. Today, I really want to talk to you about COVID. So currently I know about 13 people who have COVID or who have contracted the COVID Omicron virus in like the last week and a half. That's a lot of people for us to know. When we think back to when COVID kind of first reached our shores back in 2020, we all went into lockdown and everyone was still real suspicious. Like, is this a hoax? Like, is this a real thing? Does anyone even know someone with COVID? And now we're like a couple years over and everyone knows someone who's got COVID right now. And maybe it's just the type of virus that we've got, the variant that we're all going through. So yeah, it's pretty out of it seeing your mates get COVID, hearing your family members. I mean, like 13 is a number, and that's probably being nice as well, because then there's other people that I know from certain sporting groups as well that have COVID that I didn't even add to that number. And this is just in the last 2 weeks alone. So it is going crazy here. But in saying that, people are still recovering quite well. I can't speak for everyone. Of course, this is my own personal opinion. But yeah, from what I know, the people that I know are actually dealing with it quite well. It sounds like a real niggly type of thing. But yeah, it's good to hear that they are kind of healing through it. What's also really cool is that people are isolating themselves, okay? So they're going into their own isolation, they're getting their rapid antigen test, they're doing their 10 days, which, you know, like, that's quite an honorable thing to do. You could easily just like not get tested and just stay in the public eye and just continue spreading this current variant. Like, kudos to everyone who's doing it hard, taking those 10 days. The next thing everyone's starting to experience, and man, New Zealand Netflix must be getting hammered right now. Prime, YouTube, all of the rest. I mean, like, I've seen people watch my whole videos right after I post them, and I know they're in isolation, so thank you so much for watching and supporting. But time, right? Everyone has so much more time when they're in that isolation, plus they're trying to deal with their kids and their family. So if you're in a place where you got kids there as well and you're stuck with them every day, all day, you're not supposed to leave the house at all, man, you guys are really doing so well. So you got to hang in there. The next big thing is my training. Obviously, I know so many people from the training sector, and a lot of the people that I know that are stuck in isolation can't go and train. So maybe some of you might have a little bit of equipment that you can use at home, but maybe no program, not really any general direction. So it can be quite difficult in terms of like, what do I do? Also the fact that you are dealing with a viral infection and you got to get through that as well. So managing the intensities for your training, everyone is gonna be different. This is a real blanket overview of some things that you could try doing as you start to heal up through COVID whilst in isolation. Now, first things first. What I am noticing is people are kind of bouncing back after around day 3. So day 3 or day 4 of having contracted the virus and testing positive, people are starting to like find their legs again. And as they get further than those days, then they're starting to feel like, all right, now I'm real bored because I didn't even feel like I've got this virus or whatever anymore. And I feel like I'm able to go back and get into some things. What I would suggest is just getting into some basic strength training first. Now, don't underestimate the power of bodyweight training. All you gotta do is just look at calisthenics to know that that stuff really works, okay? Also, don't overcomplicate things and make you feel like you gotta do thousands of reps to try and make sure that you accumulate for your actual strength that you probably had before you went into isolation, when you were able to lift weights and utilize different pieces of equipment to make it, you know, a bit more convenient for you. What we need to do is think outside the box, all right? So we don't need to be wasting ourselves. Shout out to Johnny Rahiri. I know that I gave you a workout that's pretty intense, so it kind of defeats the purpose of what I am talking about. But for everyone else, Johnny's a beast, man. Just need to take slow and make sure that we're doing the basics and the fundamentals really, really well. So here's tip number 1 for those of you stuck at home with no gear. Tempo movements. Tempo movements can be your best friend if you're ever stuck at home with no gear, so in isolation, if you go away on holiday, if you're just away from your home for a little bit for work anything like that, where you just won't have access to gear, and maybe you just don't have a lot of time throughout the day. So if you want to set aside like 10 minutes or 15 minutes to do a small workout, tempo movements can be your best friend. Now, the way we perform tempo movements, there's a lot of different variations, and obviously so many different movements with the body that we can do. But what I would try and suggest first is just getting used to controlling that eccentric for a little bit longer than usual. Most exercises you do will be on like a 20-20 format or a 21-21 format, which is basically kind of like 2 seconds to go down, about a second pause at the bottom, 2 seconds to kind of come back up, and then another second pause at the top. And that's like a general overview. Not everyone uses that type of tempo. Sometimes people will do like a 20x 0, which means basically you'll do 2 seconds on the way down and then just stand up real fast. Maybe you'll have a pause at the top as well to, get yourself back into that controlled position before you move again. Anyways, we can change that tempo to be 5 seconds, man, even 10 seconds. It really depends on your strength and obviously the movement. If you're doing things like a push-up, you can probably use a little bit less time on that eccentric movement, moving my body back down towards the ground. So maybe like a 6-second push-up or a 4-second push-up. And if you're doing something like a back squat, maybe we take a little bit longer. So maybe you're pushing close to 8 to 10 seconds on that eccentric phase. What this increases is what's called time under tension, and that just means that your muscles are contracting for longer and they'll stay a little bit stronger. Okay, so that's tip number 1, utilizing tempo movements. Tip number 2, isometrics. Isometrics are a wonderful thing, and I guess it's kind of like utilizing tempo movements, except that now we're going to contract our muscles without moving. All right, so we're not going to be dynamic in our movements anymore. We're just going to get to a position, try and get some good strong loading through those muscle groups, and then we're just going to hold ourselves there for a period of time, pretty much like a plank. All right, so if you've ever done a prone hold, aka a plank before, you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to isometric contractions, and you can do them with every type of movement. It depends on what kind of loading pattern you want to do. So if you want to load more upper body, or want to load more lower body, or more posterior or more anterior, it really depends on what it is you're looking for. All right, so what we want to do is usually go halfway into whatever movement it is, and then we just want to hold ourselves there. If you do have weights available but not a lot of weight, then you can do the same thing, and you can make sure that when you're doing it with those weights, it's just in a really good, strong, controllable position. Okay, control is key when we do our isometrics. And the final tip, tip number 3, and there'd probably be so many more things we could do as well, but in terms of strength, we can, boom, couple the two together. All right, basically we can do tempos and mix them with isometrics. So for example, if we did a push-up, controlling our tempo on the way down for a set of maybe 6 seconds, and then pausing for like 2 to 3 seconds at the bottom to hold that little isometric, increasing that time under tension and just making it a little bit more difficult. This is really going to improve your strength. So like I said before, we don't need to overcomplicate the exercise. We just need to think outside the box a little bit so that we can try and be training in a way that's going to allow us to maintain, maybe even build some strength, but also keep our sanity while we're stuck in here. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do have COVID, then I hope you heal up fast. If you are starting to heal up a little bit and you need some help with your exercise, with your training, then jump on board quick. Go and check us out at The Collective Training over on Instagram. You can DM us there, ask us any more questions about what should I do as an individual. I can do this, but not that. And be sure to get back to you. If you made it this far in the video, you know what to do, fam. Chuck that young sword down in the comments below. We appreciate your support, and I love seeing all our new TCT warriors coming out of the woodworks. Let's go. I'm just like you in a way. Stuck in the game, had no choice but to keep a good play. You're rich and foolish, I spent all the loot I could save it.